The gold variety is called Vern Ogren, and that's paired with the red one named Dwight Yoakam and the Burning Heart Caladium. The green and gold in front of it is one called Dutch Mill Drive. That's a Main Street series Coleus. And then the one in front of it is one of my favorite Coleus. It's called Golda. A friend of mine said what he loved about Golda is that it drank the sun in all day, and then in the late afternoon and evening it gave it back. Behind it is one called Campfire. It's a really good rust. And then I think it was surpassed by the one in front of it as far as rust goes. And this is one called Inferno. Behind it is one called April's Rainbow. It's part of the Changeling series that I have. And the goldish one behind it is a Cool Change. The spotted one in the center is Changeling 2. And then there's a brown spotted one, this Changeling 4. And then in the back there is a burgundy one. And then here in the front is a trio of another one of my varieties called Sunny. This compact dark colored one is one of the Main Street series. It's called Broad Street. And then in front of this, at the end of the mass of Coleus, I did a small mass of an ornamental pepper that I've grown for years. It's called Medusa. It's a really nice little plant. Unusual to use a vegetable as an ornamental bedding plant, but it does really well. That large leaf elephant ear is Jack's Giant. It's poking out from a mass of Bengal tiger canna. This red one in the center is one of my selections. It's really vigorous and a good performer and good brancher. It's named Christopher Whiteside. Next to it is a sport of another one of my varieties. It's a dark sport of Buddy Val. So it's 2 shades of red, and then it's got a really thin Picotea chartreuse gold border. And that's the original Buddy Val that it came from. So here's an edible banana in the back. The 2 taller stalks there. I don't know the cultivar name. It was given to me by a friend years ago. But then I planted it with a more dwarf variety called Little Prince, which I got from Plant Delights many years ago. And then I had lots of pups, which I potted in the greenhouse, and then I planted them in a spiral, kind of a graduated spiral. And then in the middle I put some more Jack's Giant elephant ears. And here's another elephant ear, but it's an alocasia, and it's Protodora. And then we have, of course, more cultivars of Coleus, and these got planted later, so they're smaller. And then behind them is another really pretty canna that could be grown just for the foliage alone. It's called Phasin. It's got really nice sunset colored striped leaves. And it has a very similar flower to the Bengal tiger. There's some Bengal tiger over there. There's a green Coleus I've trained into a standard, and a burgundy one I have trained into a standard. And then over here is a beautiful elephant ear. It's been beat up a little bit by the rains, but it's a really nice black one called Black Coral. And then behind it is a mass of coffee cups elephant ear. And then an even larger mass of Coleus of various cultivars. Now this planting is even newer as far as when it got in the ground, and so it still hasn't filled in yet, and it will. It'll fill in, and so you don't see the space between them as far as the ground goes, and they'll just get higher and make a mosaic. So hopefully I'll be motivated enough to video some more And you can see at the far end there's a shovel sticking out of the ground and some potted coleus that haven't made it in the ground, which is typical. I usually plant for several months in the summer and give myself lots of deadlines of when I have to stop and then break all those deadlines. This is another alocasia. It's a really nice cold hardy one, and I just love its structural, element it adds to the landscape, like a sculpture. And then it's surrounded by some gold duranta, and that's another coleus I trained like a tree, standard form. There's a pink one, pink spotted one that I did that too. Another duranta, a hibiscus, and that's the end of this planting. I'll plant for maybe a few more weeks and then stop planting for the summer. That's a gold elephant ear. It's a xanthosoma. It's one that I originally purchased as chartreuse giant, so that's what I like to call it, but it also goes by the name lime zinger. And there behind it is a tropical hibiscus, is a kind of a sunset orange coloration, and a pale yellow random seedling of a canna. And then there's a mass of the big dark green thing is a brugmansia that hasn't started blooming yet. And then behind it is a giant pot of some more of that xanthosoma chartreuse giant. And then way far in the background there's that mass of coxcomb celosia. And see if I can zoom in on it. I can zoom in on that tropical hibiscus I was telling you about. Yellow canna. This is a nice smallish canna called Orange Punch. So you see the larger coleus, were planted earlier, so they've completely filled in. But these are more recent, and so they haven't filled in yet. There's that hibiscus. There's a mass of a running elephant ear. It's a colocasia called illustris. I've had it for years. It's completely cold hardy, and it gets bigger the more resources you give it. So if you give it more fertilizer and more water, it'll get bigger. And it actually is really shade tolerant and can be really stunning in the shade. And then there's a planter that has a ginger called Scarlet Fever, and I have it paired with some caladium. That's one called Florida Sunrise. And then that's just a staging area with potted coleus. And then there's the celosia behind it. That crepe myrtle in the background is in my neighbor's yard. It usually puts on a really good show. Let me lift up this flower. This is an old-fashioned hibiscus. My mom bought it years ago. It's called Lord Baltimore. It's one of the cold hardy herbaceous hibiscus. And this is just the back of that bed. We came down the aisle were the bananas and elephant ears and canna. This Formosa lily's getting ready to bloom.